The morning of September 11th, 2001, dawned like any other in New York City. The city was waking up, its inhabitants going about their daily routines, unaware of the impending catastrophe. The sun glinted off the skyscrapers of Manhattan, casting long shadows and illuminating the bustling streets below. It was a picture-perfect morning, the kind that made New York City feel invincible. People hurried to work, coffee in hand, ready to face a new day. The streets were filled with the usual hustle and bustle, a symphony of footsteps, car horns, and distant conversations. But at 8:46 a.m., the world changed forever. In an instant, the ordinary became extraordinary, and the unimaginable became reality. American Airlines Flight 11, en route from Boston to Los Angeles, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The impact was a jarring, violent explosion that shattered the morning calm. The impact, a horrific thunderclap of metal and fire, ripped a gaping hole in the iconic skyline. Flames and smoke poured out, a terrifying sight against the clear blue sky. Panic surged through the streets below. People looked up in shock, their minds struggling to comprehend the horror unfolding above them. People ran for cover, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. The city, usually so full of life and energy, was now gripped by terror. Smoke billowed from the gaping wound in the North Tower, reaching towards the heavens like a malevolent cloud. It was a sight that would be seared into the memories of all who witnessed it. Then, just 17 minutes later, a second plane, United Airlines Flight 175, slammed into the South Tower. The city, already reeling from the first attack, was plunged into further chaos. This time, the impact was even more devastating, engulfing the upper floors in a raging inferno. The flames spread quickly, consuming everything in their path. New York City, the bustling heart of America, was under attack. The Twin Towers, once symbols of American ingenuity and ambition, were now fiery tombs. The Twin Towers, once symbols of American ingenuity and ambition, were now fiery tombs. The sight of the burning towers was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present threat of violence. The city was in chaos. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, their sirens wailing as they navigated through the panicked crowds. The bravery and determination of these first responders would become a beacon of hope in the midst of the darkness. The world watched in horror. News of the attacks spread quickly, and people around the globe were glued to their screens, unable to look away from the unfolding tragedy. Amidst the devastation, a different kind of crisis was unfolding. The collapse of the World Trade Center had not only taken countless lives, but had also brought the city's transportation system to a standstill. With the collapse of the World Trade Center, transportation in and out of Lower Manhattan ground to a halt. The once bustling streets were now filled with rubble and debris, a stark contrast to the city's usual vibrancy. Bridges and tunnels were closed. Subways stopped running. The city's infrastructure, designed to handle the daily ebb and flow of millions, was now paralyzed. Hundreds of thousands of people were stranded, trapped on an island enveloped in fear and uncertainty. The sense of isolation was palpable as people searched for loved ones and tried to make sense of the chaos around them. Manhattan, the bustling heart of New York City, was now an island under siege. The city that never sleeps had been brought to a standstill, its vibrant energy replaced by an eerie silence and a sense of dread. The collapse of the World Trade Center had severed the arteries connecting it to the outside world. The iconic towers, once symbols of strength and resilience, now lay in ruins, their destruction cutting off vital links to the rest of the city and beyond. Bridges and tunnels, normally pulsating with the lifeblood of the city, stood eerily empty, their entrances blocked by police barricades. The familiar hum of traffic was replaced by an unsettling stillness, as if the city itself was holding its breath. The subway system, the city's intricate network of underground veins, had also fallen silent. Stations that once bustled with commuters were now deserted, their platforms empty and their entrances sealed. Trains sat idle in their tunnels, their lights extinguished, their passengers long gone. The rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks was replaced by an oppressive silence, a stark reminder of the day's tragic events. The isolation was immediate and absolute. Streets that once teemed with life were now desolate, the usual hustle and bustle replaced by an eerie calm. For those trapped in Lower Manhattan, the only way out was by water. The bridges and tunnels were closed, and the subway system was shut down, leaving the waterways as the sole means of escape. But with the Coast Guard initially focused on securing the harbour against further attacks, the possibility of escape seemed remote at best. Their primary mission was to protect the city from any additional threats, leaving little room for evacuation efforts. Fear began to grip the hearts of those stranded, their hopes dwindling with each passing moment. The uncertainty of what lay ahead weighed heavily on their minds, as they anxiously awaited any sign of rescue. Amid the chaos and confusion, a faint glimmer of hope emerged from the most unexpected of sources. The sight of boats approaching the harbour brought a sense of relief to those stranded, offering a potential lifeline in their time of need. The Coast Guard, realizing the gravity of the situation, issued a desperate plea for help. They called out to any and all available vessels, urging them to assist in the evacuation of Lower Manhattan. They needed boats, any boats, to assist in the evacuation of Lower Manhattan. The call went out, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. The response was nothing short of extraordinary. Boats of all shapes and sizes, from ferries to tugboats, private yachts to fishing vessels, converged on the harbour. The maritime community came together in a remarkable display of solidarity and compassion, determined to help their fellow New Yorkers in their hour of need. The flotilla of boats worked tirelessly, ferrying thousands of people to safety, providing a beacon of hope in the midst of despair. This spontaneous and heroic effort would come to be known as the largest maritime evacuation in history, a testament to the resilience and unity of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
All available boats. This is the United States Coast Guard. Anyone wanting to help with the evacuation of Lower Manhattan, report to Governor's Island. This is not a drill. We need all hands on deck. The situation is dire, and your assistance is crucial.
The Coast Guard's call for help crackled across the airwaves, a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable tragedy. The urgency in the officer's voice was palpable, resonating with everyone who heard it. It was a call that transcended boundaries, reaching the hearts of those who could make a difference. And from the marinas and inlets, from the rivers and bays surrounding Manhattan, came an answering echo. Boats of all shapes and sizes began to stir, their captains and crews readying themselves for a mission of mercy. The waterways, usually bustling with commercial and recreational traffic, now became the arteries of a massive rescue operation, a flotilla of hope. As diverse and resilient as the city it sought to save began to assemble. There were sleek speedboats, sturdy tugboats, and even private sailboats, all converging with a single purpose. The spirit of unity and determination was evident in every vessel that joined the effort. Stately yachts, their polished decks gleaming in the morning sun, cast off their moorings. These luxury vessels, often symbols of leisure and opulence, were now repurposed for a noble cause. Their owners and crews, driven by a sense of duty, navigated towards the unfolding crisis. Humble fishing boats, their hulls weathered by years of battling the elements, chugged towards the stricken city. These vessels, accustomed to the rigors of the sea, now faced a different kind of challenge. Their captains, seasoned by countless voyages, steered with resolve and compassion. Ferry boats, their decks normally teeming with tourists, prepared to shoulder a far graver responsibility. These workhorses of the harbour, designed to transport people across the waters, were now tasked with saving lives. Their crews, trained for routine operations, rose to the occasion with unwavering commitment. Even fireboats, their water cannons, normally reserved for battling blazes, joined the growing armada. These specialized vessels, equipped to fight fires from the water, now turned their attention to the rescue effort. Their crews, skilled in emergency response, brought invaluable expertise to the mission. Among those who answered the call was Captain Vincent Ardolino, a veteran mariner with decades of experience navigating the treacherous waters around New York City. Known for his steady hand and calm demeanor, Captain Ardolino was a respected figure in the maritime community. His decision to join the rescue effort was driven by a deep sense of responsibility and compassion. His vessel, the Caliente, a humble passenger ferry, was about to embark on a voyage unlike any other. Normally used for routine commutes, the Caliente was now a lifeline for those in desperate need. As Captain Ardolino guided his ferry toward the chaos, he knew that this mission would test his skills and resolve like never before. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty. but the spirit of solidarity and determination would light the way.
Captain Vincent Ardolino, a man hardened by the sea but softened by a heart full of compassion, received the Coast Guard's message with a mix of dread and determination.
The enormity of the situation was not lost on him. He knew that countless lives were at stake, and he was determined to do his part. Turning his boat, the Caliente, towards the smoke-filled horizon, Captain Ardolino steered towards the epicenter of the disaster.
As he approached Lower Manhattan, a scene of unimaginable chaos unfolded before his eyes. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning debris. People thronged the waterfront, their faces pale with fear, desperate to escape the inferno engulfing the city.
Without hesitation, Captain Ardolino maneuvered his vessel towards the crowded piers. His crew worked tirelessly, guiding the terrified evacuees aboard, offering words of comfort amidst the chaos. With each trip back and forth, the Caliente became a lifeline, ferrying people away from the disaster zone and towards safety. The Hudson River, normally a bustling waterway plied by ferries and cargo ships, had transformed into a sea of humanity. Thousands upon thousands of people thronged the waterfront, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. They came from all walks of life. Office workers in business attire, construction workers still covered in dust, tourists clutching maps and cameras, united by a desperate need to escape the nightmare unfolding around them. The boats that answered the Coast Guard's call arrived in a steady stream, their decks soon packed with evacuees. Small pleasure craft, their decks normally reserved for sunbathers, were now crammed with people, their faces pressed against the railings, their eyes fixed on the receding skyline of Manhattan. The scale of the evacuation was breathtaking. Within 9 hours, an estimated 500,000 people were transported from Lower Manhattan to safety across the Hudson River. This spontaneous flotilla, a testament to human compassion and resilience, would become known as the 9/11's Boatlift, the largest maritime evacuation in history.